Hello all, welcome to the live session of GitHub Copilot. We are late by 10 minutes due to some technical issues. We changed the live recording to a new URL. As it's a first live, we face the technical issues. Hope you will be able to make it to the new live streaming. Today, we are going to discuss about how we can leverage GitHub Copilot as an IntelliJ users. So today's topics will be, we start with an introduction of 5 minutes, followed by 15 minutes Copilot features and setup, then 15 minutes of Copilot demo using IntelliJ, and end with a Q&A. So overall, we are looking at 35 minutes of content and 10 minutes of Q&A based on the questions raised by the team. As we encountered some of the technical issues, I feel we may cut down the Q&A at the end. So without further ado, let us get started what exactly GitHub Copilot is. Now, the AI assistance is everywhere, irrespective of which field you work. It's not only for the developers, it's for many other aspects. AI assistants are there in every domains. It can be healthcare, manufacturing, education, or you take any field of work, you can identify AI assistants. It started long back itself in all other fields except for a developer. Even though the developers coded and created AI assistants for other streams, we never got the chance to get the flavors of AI in our day-to-day activities. But currently, AI assistance in a developer role is changing the way we works. Earlier, we works in a particular pattern. After receiving the requirements, we may follow different models. It can be the agile or waterfall or the CMI kind of models. But almost every time we followed a certain way, that is, get the requirements, understand it and code it, do the unit testing and bunch of other activities. But the introduction of AI assistants helped us to increase our productivity, focus on more innovative solutions instead of doing the same mundane job of coding. Sometimes we create the same code for 10 different projects. Almost 80% of code is similar kind of thing. One or the other way, small changes, variations will be there. But we repeat the activities again and again. Considering the unit test code, it's almost similar except the boundary conditions and data inputs kind of thing. So the AI assistant helps you to enhance productivity, personalize, and the availability. It's available always with you. You don't need to take an appointment with some of the senior leads to explain the issues or explain the code. Instead, AI assistance is there for you 24/7, helping you with your own queries. This seamless collaboration introduced a new paradigm for developers. As developers, we faced a lot of issues or challenges in the overall SDLC, and AI assistants are there to guide us from starting till the end. Today, we are going to explore GitHub Copilot as an AI assistant. Obviously, there are a bunch of AI assistants available outside. For each of your requirements, you can get assistance by one or the other. Obviously, as a developer used in a traditional way of development, it's your time to change the way you develop, change the way you approach a problem, or even change the skills you learned. You need to reskill yourself in the new way of communicating with AI, get the benefit out of this. I hope everyone maybe heard the word prompt engineering. The new paradigm started as part of the AI assisted development. It's not only for development. Even if you want a story from ChatGPT, you need to give a proper prompt. Prompt engineering is helping you to communicate with AI systems and get the work done. So our focus is development. We are not talking about the stories or not talking about image creation, video editing, or any of other aspects. We are looking at how the AI assistants can help us in coding or day-to-day activities for a developer. Before going to the GitHub Copilot, a little understanding of LLM will help you to set your expectations from the AI assistants. Large language models are out there, which is trained with lot of data. It can be millions of repositories or public informations, the textual information, audio, video, all kind of data is used for training large language models. Out of LLM, there are various categories. We are dealing with Gen AI, the generative AI, which deals with the creation of new content. So remember that the AI assistant which we talks about, or the AI assistant for the developer, is based on a Gen AI. It generates the new content based on the prompt you provide, the training it's had already as part of the underlying model, also the context you pass. The context is the files and the related elements. If you pass a bunch of files and related things, that's a context. So Gen AI is going to be the central of our AI assistant. On top of that, obviously the predefined models have trained with data from last year or 1 month or 2 months or 6 months before data. But sometimes as a developer, we look for the latest information. Their play a major role. RAG is nothing but the retrieval augmented generation, which supports the LLM or Gen AI for synthesizing the responses with the latest information. GitHub Copilot, some of the components use RAG, the remaining is based on Gen AI. RAG is just a uh, layer over the Gen AI, you can say. It synthesizes the response from the predefined model with the data from the latest internet-based or specific documentation-based information. So you will be getting more accurate latest information when you apply the RAG on top of Gen AI. So these two technologies play underlying layer for the GitHub Copilot. So let us move to the GitHub Copilot, your AI-powered partner for smarter, faster coding. Any developer who want to use the Copilot, I request you to learn at least one of the AI assistant. It can be Copilot or any other things. This change the way you program, change the way you approach the program altogether. So let us see what kind of flavors of Copilot is there before we start the setup and configuration. Starting with GitHub Copilot, the license models we will look into. There are multiple license. Obviously, all the AI assistants have their own license models. You need to understand that first to start the model or start the tool exploration. Then which all ID is compatible, the features, use cases, then start the setup. This is the agenda for today. If you are using GitHub Copilot, you can send an yes in the chat. I will be just monitoring you the chat in case you have a okay. Let us move to the license models. GitHub Copilot license models. There are 4 different models exist. Start with a free. It's a free license model where some restrictions are there, that is 2000 completions and 50 chat responses per month. But if you are just starting exploring a new AI model, the free tier of GitHub Copilot helps you to get started. And in tutorial, we have a detailed video explaining how to use this free version of GitHub Copilot. Then we have the Pro. That is for the developers, individual developers who are contributing to open source or contributing, doing a freelancing work kind of thing. You can use the Pro. That is $10 per month. You can use it for any of your own development. Even you can fine tune the policies for allowing the model to use the code for training and everything. So you are in charge. As a developer, you are in charge. You can go with Pro, saying that Pro is available for some students, teachers, and some of the maintainers of open source. So in case free is not enough and you are a student, you can use Pro. And you need to apply for Pro with more details, which college and everything you are studying kind of information. And in case you are coming from a business background or you are part of a enterprise, use business or enterprise. Business is $19, which consists of almost all features and popularly used by most of the organizations. Enterprise add additional informations in terms of customizing the models and more controls kind of thing. But business is the one we are going to explore further. Let us go into the ID support element. Each one of us may be using our own favorite IDs. I use most of the time Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ, and Copilot support a bunch of IDs. It starts from github.com. The browser-based github.com is powered by Copilot. All the features which we discuss will be covered in github.com as well. And also VS Code, VS, that is a Visual Studio, and a bunch of JetBrains IDs, NeoBeam, and Xcode. Xcode for the developers of Android or any kind of applications. You can use Xcode as well. Android Studio is always coming under the JetBrains IDs. Under JetBrains IDs, you can see a number of IDs, including Android Studio, IntelliJ, and other kind of IDs. NeoBeam and Azure Data Studio. Azure Data Studio is mainly for the database developers, and the other IDs are popularly used by the developers. We are going to explore IntelliJ that comes under the JetBrains ID. This is the area we are exploring. Next meeting, we will explore the VS Code in detail. VS Code is powered with much more features compared to the other IDs. So let us move to the Copilot feature angle. The Copilot support the code completion. That's the first one released. After that, Copilot chat came. That's the second release happened. These two are the focus area for today's session. We will be discussing about how to use code completion and Copilot chat. A bunch of other things are there as part of Copilot family. A CLI support for terminal users. If you are using a terminal like a shell script or PowerShell or anything, CLI is the approach you can take. GitHub Mobile or Copilot Mobile is another supported area. .com chat, that's the one we talked about, github.com or browser-based Copilot support. Extensions to support the external data integrations, workspace for idea to code, a streamless integration, APIs to support matrices, user management, and other aspects, multi-model support, Copilot custom models, and much more. So all these comes under Copilot features angle, but we are going to discuss only two of them, code completion and Copilot chat. Let us move to the next one, the use cases. When we talk about Copilot use cases, a bunch of use cases. As a developer, you may know, we deals with many aspects. Even though as a developers do coding, that's a normal phenomena. We may do coding for 4 hours out of 8 hours timeline or 15 hours timeline. What's the timeline you work? But coding will be a portion of our work. Apart from coding, we do explaining the requirements, understanding the requirements, or if we are doing a maintenance project, we need to understand the code logic of that code itself, get an understanding of the code, then refactoring the code or writing the unit test cases, documenting the code, deployment error fixes, or a bunch of bug fixes, many aspects. It's a n number of things we handle as part of our development life cycle. Each of these cases comes under Copilot use cases. You can use Copilot for simple explaining the code, or completing the code once you start typing it, or converting the requirement from a command to the code format, transitioning from one language to another, Angular to React conversion or React to X by Z conversion kind of thing, upgrading from one version to the other version, anything and everything. As a developer, if you are touching the code, when I talk developer, anyone who is touching the code is a developer. It can be leveled in different ways. You may be a tester writing the Selenium scripts. Still, you are a developer. You are touching the code. So you can use Copilot as part of your day-to-day activities. There are a bunch of use cases for Copilot, but we will focus on some of the basic things today, as it's the initial session and most of the use cases are covered as part of tech drill. So let us go to the next one, the Copilot setup. We are going directly into the demo. So starting with GitHub Copilot code completion and chat. These are the two elements we are looking at, code completion and chat. Let me just start with the IntelliJ. So I'm going to start the IntelliJ and how you can set up. In IntelliJ, we call it as plugin. The other systems, it may be called as extensions. Go to the marketplace under plugin and search for Copilot. You have GitHub Copilot here, install it. Go ahead and install the Copilot. It takes hardly a few seconds to complete the installation. And in case you haven't signed in with Copilot yet, you can sign in using a free account. I'm using my GitHub account, which contains a Copilot license already assigned. So it's automatically sign in with that account. But in case you need a free account, check the video in TechRail how to get a free account or a free instant of GitHub Copilot. The installation is completed. Let us open one of the project. I'm going for a sample project initially, which contains some simple code snippets. So the primary objective of Copilot, you can observe the Copilot is completed. It's signed in case it's not logged in. You will get a information here where you can GitHub. As I am already logged into IntelliJ, it's automatically login with my ID. Copilot is ready, and you have the chat interface here. We'll come to that later. Let us just focus on the first one, that is a code completion. Code completion start with when you are in an existing project, it start identifying the pattern, what kind of functions it's having, and based on that it gives the requirement suggestion itself, not only the code suggestion. It started with the requirement suggestion. As you can observe that now it's providing, add a new method for finding the queue of a number. Just tab it for accepting this suggestion and enter for getting the code snippet for that. Another tab, it accepts the complete code. You can observe that it's completed this one, and whenever you press enter, it comes with another requirement. It's not necessary to accept all requirement. Instead, you can add a new method for finding the number is prime or not. So whenever you start typing, Copilot, try to understand what exactly your intent is. Especially we are giving an intent to Copilot or the AI system in a prompt manner. Once it's understand the intent, it's try to complete that statement. Now enter for getting the code snippet. If you want to see multiple code snippet available or not, you can just go for inline chat for getting more information kind of thing, or just tab it for accepting this one. I just accepted whatever it's provided right now. This is called code completion. Code completion should be very faster, otherwise the developer will get annoyed. So whenever you start typing, obviously it needs to change. For example, add a new function instead of method. I just added function. You can see that the Copilot changing each keystroke, it analyze and change the intent completely. And the similar way, you can modify something like function to verify the email using regex. So this is my requirement. Let me see how Copilot is coming. You can observe this way. It's provided the complete one. Now the question is, it's given a regex. It's always difficult for any developer to understand this kind of patterns. The complexity of the code. If it is an existing code and you got a bug to fix some specific element here, my email needs to include .net or a specific domain as part of that checking. It's difficult to understand this first and introduce the new changes. This time you can take the help of GitHub Copilot chat to get an explanation. You can ask Copilot to explain the code, which is highlighted right now. You can see how Copilot is getting the complete explanation here. It's provided the details initially, taken the code pattern, and provided this one. For example, I felt that it's very complex. I want to simplify it. Again, /simplify will help you in case there is a simplification possibility is there. Copilot will look on that one. Especially this will be applied for you have 100 lines of code written and you feel that it needs to be simplified. Copilot can fine tune such things. Here again, Copilot done a level of simplification and it's explained that /w, which is a shorthand for A to Z and 0 to 9 underscore. This entire thing can be replaced by /w. That is what it's done, the simplification right now. If you feel that is appropriate, you can just click on this one to insert the block, or I'm just going to undo this change, or you have a copy block. You can copy this one and paste it here. Whichever way you want, you can do it. It's not only simplification and explaining, much more can be done with this particular chat system. Simple example is this adding the number. It's a set of numbers and number of numbers needs to be added continuously. I have taken very simple examples code to understand the basic features here. For understanding test, you can give /test. This is the simplest form of generating unit test cases for a selected method or function. You can observe that it's coming up with test cases. The first one, the name of the test case is appropriately mentioned so that you can understand what exactly it's doing. The first one is adding multiple positive values. Second one is multiple numbers with no values. There is no value altogether. And the next one is negative values included, mixed values, and with a single value. So it's covered around 5 different scenarios to cover end to end. It's identified different use cases or boundary conditions for our example, then created this one. For example, in divide, we have a illegal argument exception. Let me see whether Copilot is able to generate a test case for this one properly. We are just using the simple method of /test, but if you have a very complex functionality, you can prompt Copilot instead of using /test. Even you can combine /test with your requirement in detail. Here again, Copilot is going to create. First one is dividing two positive numbers, positive and negative number. Divide 0 by positive number. The next one, you can see it's covered the illegal argument. The exception also covered properly in a test case. If you have such exception scenarios, it's taken care by that one. But in case you need a specific requirement, like it needs to be tested with specific elements, for example, in our newly created email one, I can use /test, but along with that, I can say add test cases for access at for emails with .org. So just a specific requirement. I know as a developer, this is the boundary condition or business case, which I try to implement and need to be validated explicitly. Some of the functions have general implementations, but along with that, we may have a specific business requirement. I need to verify whether my code is captured that requirement or not. That case, you can write that as part of your prompt to Copilot for a proper test generation. Here, you can observe that we specified email with /org. .com org is there. Second one is the org. And even you can specify the invalid email without at symbol. There is no at symbol. Here there are double at symbol after an exclamation symbol. So there are a lot of negative scenarios it's tested. At the same time, it will be tested the positive scenarios as well. So this is the way you can generate the test cases. Not only that, you have some of the / commands for documentation and fixing the bugs, giving the feedback back to the team, and the help angle. You can use all of that. Along with that, in case you need a specific requirements like I need more documentation for this one, you can ask Copilot, comment my code in detail. So prompt engineering is very important. Simple prompts like this will make simple code things, but if you have a detailed requirements, you can construct the prompt based on different prompt engineering paradigms. Here you can observe that we asked to comment this particular method in detail. Each of the line received the comment that is aligned to the requirements or the aligned to the code we processed here. It's not really commented randomly. Instead, it's understand the purpose of this one and commented. And in sometimes we may need a Java doc for that. Then you can just say doc. This is enough. Doc is enough for documenting your methods. In an API level, if you want a specific Swagger kind of documentation, you can mention that as well. Java doc will be get added as part of /doc, as you observe here. It's given the initial line, then parameters are defined, and return value is also defined as part of your Java doc. This similarly you can just insert by clicking on this one. So it replaces the code with the documented code. Ensure that it's an AI assisted work. So you need to review your code always. As a developer, you are in charge of this code. You should refer it and fine tune it. So this is all about today's session. We will go in deeper on the unit test and the other aspect in upcoming sessions. So going back to our deck, the next session you can expect on 4th February. Hopefully there won't be any technical issues, we will ensure that it goes live at 8 p.m. in the provided link itself, where we will be covering more about GitHub Copilot with VS Code. These two sessions will be the basic sessions, and then we'll focus on deep dive on a specific technology area. If you have any questions, you can post it in the chat. I will be waiting for some more time. If there is no questions, we will bind up. Connect with Tuckrill or LinkedIn. We will discuss further on GitHub Copilot. Let us stop today's session. Thank you all for joining the session.